Hello, this is Spencer Mallet, and I am doing my podcast on genetically modified organisms. Food, one of the basic necessities of life, something a human being simply cannot survive without. Although many consider the consumption of food to be a mindless act, there may be an unknown significance in the substance we identify as food. Have you ever inquired about what enters and hopefully leaves your body? How the food we eat actually affects us? I mean, we are what we eat, right? Food is of utmost importance and value for human beings. It has biological, social, and cultural symbolic significance. Beyond that, food has a very intimate effect on human beings. It directly affects our health, bodily constitution, and well-being. We are what we eat in a very literal sense. However, do we really know what exactly to consume, or, more importantly, what many of us already do consume? Currently, over 80% of the conventional food in the United States contains genetically modified organisms, aka GMOs. Now, what might this statistic have to do with you? Everything. Today, I will inform you on what genetically modified organisms specifically are, how these artificial organisms might affect you daily, and the long-term implications GMOs will have on our environment. Speaking of food, let us begin. A genetically modified organism is the result of a laboratory process. Put simply enough, a procedure in which the gene of one organism is inserted into another in the attempt to obtain a desired trait or newfound characteristic. This process may be called either genetic modification or genetic engineering. Now, one may confuse this process with traditional crossbreeding or what might naturally occur in the course of nature. Furthermore, this process is in fact the complete opposite of any form of natural breeding. In traditional breeding, a farmer might breed one type of cow with another to eventually get a new variety of cattle. However, it is not possible for that farmer to breed a cow with a potato or tomato. As bogus as this may sound, through genetic engineering, it is now possible for organisms to be engineered with genes taken from bacteria, viruses, insects, animals, plants, or even humans. Scientists have worked on some interesting combinations. Arctic fish genes gave tomatoes and strawberries tolerance to frost. Human genes were injected into corn kernels to produce spermicide, and Norwegian rat genes were engineered to alter the oil profile of soybeans. These combinations sound like something out of a Frankensteinian fiction, not something that should be on the dinner plate. By taking the food we eat down to the biological level, the process of genetic modification can be explained to a better extent. Every plant and animal is made of cells, each of which has a center called a nucleus. Inside every nucleus, there are strings of DNA, which happen to also be called genes, hence the name genetic modification. These genes operate to provide the cell with information to function and ultimately survive. Further, living organisms have natural barriers to protect themselves against the introduction of DNA from a different species. Genetic engineers have found ways to force the DNA from one organism into another. These methods of foreign gene introduction include the use of viruses or bacteria to infect animal or plant cells with new DNA, by the use of a gene gun, which shoots a DNA-smothered pellet into a cell, or by the use of electric shocks, which create holes in the membrane of a cell, and then forcing the new DNA into the cell through these holes. I don't know about you, but this sure doesn't sound like anything Mother Nature would do. GMOs were first introduced to the world during the early 1980s. Since then, the production and creation of GMOs has grown exponentially. Currently, genetically modified crops in the US include 94% of soy, 95% of sugar beets, and 88% of corn. Other sources include any livestock product that has consumed genetically modified feeds, food additives, and several of those incomprehensible ingredients one might find on a food package. Understanding that genetically modified organisms are produced artificially and are not natural to the environment, several suspicions have been raised. The predominant question being whether or not these organisms are safe for human and livestock consumption. Leading company in this industry, Monsanto, states there is no need or value in testing the safety of genetically modified foods in humans. Before you jump on board with Monsanto, there are a few credible statistics that might be worth hearing. Contrary to the common claim of safety and benefits, a large volume of peer-reviewed scientific information shows the truth of GMOs. The continual use of pesticides and herbicides, insect and weed killers have been proven to harm beneficial insects, pollute the surrounding environment through their toxicity, and creating weeds and insects that are resistant to even the most powerful of chemicals. Massachusetts Institute of Technology scientists have discovered the biochemical disruption caused by genetic engineering and concluded that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, is the most chronically toxic chemical in our environment. In addition, most GMOs are soaked with toxic weed killers such as Roundup, which recent medical studies link to cancer, birth defects, endocrine disruption, digestive disorders, liver and kidney failure, premature death, immune problems, infertility, and many, many others directly correlated with GMO products. As stated earlier, over 80% of the conventional food in the United States contains genetically modified organisms. This statistic, in fact, has everything to do with you. So, the next time you go out for lunch or have a midnight snack, I hope you are now aware of the possible risks associated with this substance we identify as food. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my podcast, and if you have any questions or you want to give me feedback on any of the information I conveyed, I would love to be of assistance, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.